4 years ago, I had no idea how to price myself. So it was about 50 euros per hour. I was like, oh, it's too high. Who is going to pay that? And I was undervaluing my skills and pricing myself too low. Then I learned to refuse projects that are below a certain price, because experience, expertise, and reputation, all of that has value.
Hello and welcome to episode 114 of Webflow. I'm your host, Jack, your failure connoisseur. And today we have a double bill. We have Alina, Chhay, and Camille and Vincenzo on the podcast. And the reason why we're doing a double bill today rather than just a single Pringle is because these two come as a package. They are both incredible no-code and low-coders who have got a ton of experience in not just the Webflow space, but other tools in the ecosystem, building a better internet together. The reason why I came across these two is because Théo Roland from the French Webflow community, he was like, Jack, you must get these two on. They're so good. They're so talented. And I'm really happy that they're here today. Because there's two people, though, we are going to do 6 failures rather than the normal 3. So we're going to blitz through these together. And I'm super excited to get the failures that we'll talk about from Alina are not qualifying prospects and accepting all calls without distinction. 2, underpricing herself and not knowing how to estimate the value of her work. 3, accepting too many clients and underestimating the time required for each project. And then from Camille, we have failing to make customers respect her limits, afraid of working on complicated projects, even though these are the ones that make her learn. And at the beginning, not asking questions to the Webflow community because she was afraid her questions might be silly and she had imposter syndrome. God, we got a killer episode ahead of us. Both Camille and Alina, welcome to the Webflow podcast.
Hello. Thank you so much for having us.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, guys. Thank you for coming on the Webflow podcast. And all these failures, I just can't think like how all these failures compounded after seeing you guys at the French Webflow talk that you guys did. And obviously that went down really well. Can you tell us a little bit about the talk and what happened there?
Yes, we had a talk at the Webflow watch party. It was a little bit about failures because we gave like 10 tips to find our first clients as beginners. And I think in those 10 tips, 5 or 6 of them, I wasn't following them when I was a beginner. And I think, Alina,
Me too.
It was failures for us.
Yes, I think that we made a lot of mistakes at the beginning.
But now, look at you guys.
Now we are experiments.
Yes, it actually failures are part of the process. Like we were talking about prospection, about going to meetings, no-code meetings, no-code summit, Webflow parties, everything. And actually talking about me, when I was a beginner, like my first year of freelancing, I wasn't doing anything, like not going to Paris to go to the Webflow watch party. I was doing actually 0 prospection, and that was a huge mistake. So we had to share those tips to the audience.
Love that. I think this is one of the biggest things that people don't consider when they want to get clients is actually talking to people and fostering connections. I just don't think people have the confidence maybe at the start, but they're like, how do I get clients? Are you actually going to talk to anyone? No. Okay, it's not going to help, is it? Alina, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, it's easier to work behind your computer rather than going to a meetup.
100%. And I definitely think that since it's the easier path, people don't do it. But often I find taking the harder path is a better route to success. And tell me a little bit about your relationship with failure. How do you guys cope with failure? What is your experience with dealing with it?
That's you.
I can start as you wish.
I think that failure, we don't like failure, but it's part of the process, so it's normal, and we'll learn a lot from failures and from mistakes.
Yeah, I will try to be concise, but my relationship with failure has been very complicated, actually. When I was in my early 20s, I did not accept the idea of failure. The idea of failing, that was something that made me feel ashamed, actually. Ashamed is the word. I didn't dare talk about it around people, around friends, around family, because I was afraid of the way they will look at me, maybe afraid of being seen as a failure myself. And in retrospect, this is completely absurd.
Yeah. But
Today,
it's
I feel more comfortable with failure. It's part of everyday life, like Elina said, and we are still afraid of it, of course, but I think like in the 30s, we approach it more wisely and it's a learning process. And finally, you avoid making the same mistakes twice.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the real failure is if you do the same mistake again after learning from the first time, right? But definitely what I've noticed among Webflowers and successful no coders and low coders is that they approach failure by being like, okay, what went wrong? Let's analyze that, let's learn from it, and let's go again, rather than being like, oh God, I'm such a failure. Whereas I think a lot of the time when people see failures, they can compartmentalize. Okay, this is me over here, but that's not to do with, or that's not like emotionally reacting to the failure. It's more like objectively, okay, what went wrong and how can I implement changes to ensure that doesn't happen again? But it's not easy. Of course it's not. And I think you guys know you guys have had so many different experiences in the no code, low code space. Camille's background is an e-com, so she knows a hell of a lot about Shopify and then transitioned from there into loads of other platforms. And Alina is just a no code, low code machine, aren't you? You're super, super talented at building fast. And tell us a little bit about the co-living space in the southwest of France, because we spoke a little bit about that and I think it's super interesting.
Yes, so we wanted to organize this co-living for ourselves first, and second, to bring the Webflow community together in a fun way, helping each other, sharing good times, and working in a beautiful and very beautiful villa.
Amazing. And I guess the advantage of that is sharing ideas. I go to a co-working space, I share ideas. Why is the co-living so powerful?
But actually, with the co-living, the aim is really to build community links, working together on Webflow, sharing tips, sharing skills, and also have fun. You don't have this side on the co-working. You can have fun. You can do like a pause for 20 minutes, talk and everything, but on the co-living, we spend evenings playing board games. We've got planned team cookings every night. We had a new meal. We organized a quiz about Webflow with vouchers and merchandising to win. But that was fun. That was very fun.
Amazing. And how long have you guys, so do you go down for a couple of weeks, a month? What does it look like?
I think we started in March.
Wow.
Yeah, and actually, we choose to stay 1 week, not two, because two can be a bit tricky. The relationship between all the members of the co-living can be good, like for 7 days, but living in community for 2 weeks can be a bit, I don't know exactly how to say, but it can create conflicts because it's a long time, actually. So, yes, we choose the 1 week format, and maybe we will have the second edition in March.
Ooh la. Okay, so
Yes.
if anyone's interested in co-living in the southwest of France for some time, then why don't you check out Can I share the website link?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's webflow-co-living.webflow.io. And if you go on that site, you can sign up to be part of a waiting list and learn more about co-living and what it might look like for you if you are interested. So pretty cool. I may well join you guys in March and then we can do another podcast together
Clever.
in French. What? I can't speak
Exactly.
French. It's going to be the shortest podcast ever.
I'm sure you can.
Let's stop talking about this, though. Let us jump into your failures. I think what we should do is we're going to start with you, Alina, and we're just going to go through those, but we'll both talk about them. Tell me about failure number 1, not qualifying prospects and accepting all calls without distinction.
Yes. So at the beginning, I want to take every opportunity because I don't want to miss out on potential clients. And the problem is that often leads to long calls with people who just want to chat with you because they have time. And these people are not ready to commit, or they are just looking for free advice. And what I've learned now is that I qualify leads if they have no budget, or if the project is not well defined, or if someone is passive aggressive. I refuse. I don't want to work with you. That's super clear.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds really healthy. So how do you qualify them? If someone's like listening to this and it's like, ugh, I have so many calls and so little actual work from it, what should they do?
Send me an email, and then I will ask you 3 questions by email. And if I think that the project is good or well defined, I will jump on a call. And if not, I just say I'm not available. Please come in 3 or 6 months after.
Okay, clever. So what you do is you just say, I'm just going to push that down the line rather than be like, listen here, mate, your project is not well defined. You've got no budget. So you're not rude to them. You're just saying, look, I can't do this now. Contact me again in a few months. And hopefully they'll have a better defined project in that time anyway. So if they do contact you again, they'll be better prepared. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. You are all about no code sans bullshit. Yeah, you want to work directly, which makes sense. Camille, do you have any advice on qualifying leads or anything for anyone that's listening?
Actually, I have not. I'm taking notes because I do not qualify my customers or prospects. So I have an open Calendly. Yeah, but that's true. I have some people they are not ready for a project, or they do not understand exactly what I'm doing. Like they are looking for something else. So yes, I will think about it. Thanks, Alina.
Something that I found really useful is having a calendar with a 30-minute window. So I still take the call with whoever it is, because what I found is like my mate's little brother, he may not have budget for a project now, but if I'm helpful, if I provide value on every single phone call I have, then likely it is, what goes around comes around, right? And he might recommend me to someone. He might have like friends or family that he'll be like, oh, I chatted to this guy. It was really helpful. But I set a half an hour window, which means that I say at the top of the call, they'll book a half an hour call, and I'll say when we get on the call, hey, just to let you know, this is a hard stop at half an hour. So if you've got questions, let's get straight into it. And it means that we don't say, how was your holiday? Like, I don't give okay, I'm not going to say a swear word, but we just need to get into this and see if I can help. And if I can't, then that's totally fine. Hopefully I can at least recommend someone else or be helpful in some way. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that, because it is annoying when you have so many calls and so little work comes from it. And you're like, what is happening? So yeah, definitely resonate with that. How do you know if someone is a qualified lead then, Alina? Like, what is a qualified lead?
They have a well-defined project, The project is super clear. They got a vision. They have a budget. I ask if you have budget because I'm not free. My work has value. If they told me that the budget is too tight, I refuse or I pass down to another freelance who is a junior. And yes, if they have a deadline for the project.
Okay. Great.
No, but actually, you're right about deadlines because sometimes we have customers who want a website like 2 weeks after. The deadline is very important.
Yeah, definitely. I think red flag alert when clients are like, we need this in a week.
Yes.
Why? You are clearly so disorganized. If you need this in a week, then what went wrong? Like, why didn't, clearly you're not good at planning, organization. So yeah, completely agree. Speaking of, though, struggling to value your work, tell me about failure number 2, Alina, underpricing your services and struggling to value your work.
Yes, when I first 4 years ago, I had no idea how to price myself, how much I should charge, because I still had the employee mindset. I set my rates based on my old salary rather than the value. And for example, the first time I thought my price, so it was about 50 euros per hour, only 50 euros per hour. I was like, oh, it's too high. Who is going to pay that? And I was undervaluing my skills and pricing myself too low. And then I learned to raise my rates or to refuse projects that are below a certain price, because experience, expertise, and reputation, all of that has value. And that's it.
Wait, say that again. Expertise, expertise, and
your reputation.
Experience, expertise, and reputation have value. Love that. I'm going to get that tattooed on my forehead. Camille, do you have anything to add there?
I completely agree with you, Alina. I would just add that actually, when we think our value is like very low, we also broke the market. I don't know if we say this,
Yes,
but actually, we broke the market, and the prospect or customers, they do not understand when someone just say, "I'm 100 euros an hour," because you're our other juniors or competitors are at 30 euros an hour. And actually, we lose jobs like that. So we have to talk about it to juniors, actually. Yes, not do the same mistake.
Something that I think is quite interesting is employee syndrome, where essentially you were an employee, so you were in a full-time job, you had this cap of what your value is. And then suddenly as a freelancer or a consultant, you charge hourly or you charge a day rate, and you're like, oh my God, this is so much more. I'm not worth that. But you need to change your perception of what value is from being an employee to being self-employed. And that's quite a hard, mental shift, I think. So I love what you say there, Alina, about recognizing your worth. And then Camille, completely agree. It's hard when the bar is so low financially. It's if clients' references for money are Fiverr and Upwork, and then they speak to you and they're like, what? I could get this for literally $5 an hour. Why would I go to you? I think this is where having a personal brand really helps. We spoke at the start here that you guys spoke at the Webflow watch party. You talked at it. You become, seen as an authority in the space when you public speak. When you have a newsletter like No Code Secrets, which is really good. I have to translate it. I translated it this morning with ChatGPT because I'm not very good at French. But, talking about what you're doing, sharing your expertise publicly and being like, I'm going to help other people get to where they want to be. Instantly, clients are going to be like, if they're teaching other people, then they must be good, right? There's ways that you can stand out from the $5 an hour, $10 an hour people. And you can say to clients, look, I'm not the cheapest. If you want the cheapest, go that way. But that's not me. And what's weird about saying that is that they will realize, hey, this person values themselves. They're not going to get stepped on. And I want to work with them because, they clearly know what they're talking about. So I think learning your worth is so, so important. Do you guys have anything to add or say about that?
You're right.
Exactly.
Failure number 3, accepting too many clients and underestimating project deadlines.
Yes, like the first mistakes, I tend to say yes to too many clients at once because I'm afraid of missing an opportunity. I got the FOMO. So I end up taking too much clients that I can handle. And this is exactly what I'm experiencing right now. So this is not very cool, but I learned. And it creates like a snowball effect where you are constantly overloaded, jumping from one project to another, without being being available for all your clients. And the result is that you can't deliver the same quality and you are exhausted.
100%. So Camille, do you have anything to add there?
I think I have changed my mind about when I started to work with about deadlines. Actually, I thought I was able to deliver in 1 week, 2 weeks, and now I'm just counting much larger than before, like 4 or 5 weeks to deliver a project, even if I have time actually to do it in 1 week. I only promise 4 or 5 weeks, so I'm not in a rush if I have like other projects.
And the rush is the thing that brings down the quality of the work. It makes you annoyed with the client. It makes the client annoyed with you. It's actually just a false idea of pressure. It doesn't need to be done quickly. Like when a client says, this needs to be done by next week, it's like, why? Like, why? What is the deadline? And often there is no deadline. It's just the client is, I want it done by next week. And you say why, and they crumble. They're like, actually, it doesn't really need to be done by next week. And you're like, okay, let's not make that the deadline then. Let's give ourselves some time to make sure that this is done properly. Yeah, completely agree. Do you think, though, that there's a bit of a problem between when you start, you're so keen to get clients, and you're like, I will take anything. I need to get the experience. I need to get the job. And then you get into this mindset of scarcity where you're like, I don't know if the next job is ever going to happen. And then you take on too much work and then you get burnt out and you're like, oh God, what am I doing? I hate freelancing. How do people do this freelancing thing? This is ridiculous. I have no work-life balance. I've just quit my 9 to 5 to get rid of a boss. And now I have 5 bosses. How do you navigate that, guys? How do you deal with that?
You do the job and then you sleep and then you refuse all the clients for 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Okay, so what you do is you're like on and then you're off.
Yes.
And then you're on and then you're off. Interesting.
Now, yes.
I wonder though, like maybe there comes a point, someone said this to me that I think is quite a helpful frame of reference, is that when you start out, you don't have work. You need work. Okay, you do it for cheap, you get the jobs, you get the testimonials, and then that group of people that you work with will refer more work to you. And then you become overwhelmed. So then you either take on that work and just go into a dark place where you just work the whole time and work on 5 projects simultaneously, or you raise your rates, which means that maybe 50% of the work that you would have got actually happens, but you've got double the money, so you've got essentially the same amount. And I think there's this balance between trying to raise your rates in order to hopefully live better, but also to actually get less jobs accepted, which mean that a good quality of life, and you can maintain being a freelancer, or you'll just burn out. What do you guys think about that?
That's a good solution, actually,
Yes.
raising the price, raising the raise and working a bit less. But
Yeah.
when it happens, like 5 projects, and actually that's a big failure. We have made the mistakes, like taking five
Yeah.
projects.
Yeah.
But when we have it, I think Elina and I are the same. We try to deliver as
As
fast as
possible.
possible.
Yeah.
And after, we do not repeat the same mistake.
Yes.
We will never take 5 projects at the
Yeah.
same time. Maybe we'll try for 2 projects or anything. But in general, when you suffer like this, you do not do the same mistake twice.
Yes.
Amen. I think as much as we say this stuff in the podcast and people listen to this and say, oh, that was really helpful and stuff, but actually you need the scar tissue. Like you need to know what it feels like to be working at 2 a.m. to deliver a project and being like, fuck, why isn't this code working? And you've got the deadline at whatever time. Like, I think you need to feel that in order to actually know how you want to be as a freelancer, because there's no one size fits all. I know a guy who is super talented creative, but hates clients. He was like, I don't want to talk to clients. I don't want to be a freelancer because that means I need to manage the project. I need to talk to the client. He just wanted to work in-house. So he was like, you know what? I'm done. I want to go and work in-house. I get paid way less, but I just do the creative and I have fun. And I let someone who's better than me at managing the project manage the project and talk to the client. And I think there's no one size fits all for this type of thing. Okay, we've done 3 failures. Alina, you've been incredible. Now we're going to turn our attention to Camille. Tell me about number 1 for Camille, failing to make your customers respect your limits.
Yes, I have to start with a spoiler alert. I'm still struggling with it today.
Okay, hey, great. Talk to me about it.
Yes, actually, I can't come up with clear rules because to me, it's common sense, for example, not to contact a freelance or a service provider or anything at weekends or at 11 p.m. by night. And the problem with that is that I answer. Yeah, I answer at 11 or at the weekends. And I have worked also with friends, or I must say acquaintances, and they are the worst customers ever.
Ooh.
Because they feel they can contact you or ask you for anything just because you know them. So that's a limit I try to make, not working with a family or friends or acquaintances, actually. And it's hard, actually, to be fair with them and also with other customers about the limits of the service. And when they ask for something extra, I did not charge for it at the beginning until I realized that I could have gone to Japan for 15 days on what I hadn't charged last year. What I'm putting in place for January, because I'm still struggling, I will have a new SIM card with a different member because my business phone is currently my personal phone. And also, I will block notification after 7 p.m. and during the weekends.
Wow, that's quite extreme. You're like Jason Bourne, or you're like a spy. So, just to be clear, then, because what I found quite helpful is to only be contacted by clients through Slack or Teams. So, basically, project will start. Cool. Now we're going to talk through this one channel where your team members can all talk, we can all see the conversation, and we can all stay up to date. And that way, I don't get emails or WhatsApps. Getting added to a WhatsApp from a client is, oh my Lord.
Horrible.
Oh my Lord. I already hate WhatsApp because the amount of groups you just get added to, and you're like, no offense, but I don't want to come to your birthday. And it's, oh man, yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? So it sounds really healthy to do that. I think this is linked to how you price as a freelancer as well, though, because some people's pricing structure is hourly, some people's is a day rate, some people's is a project fee. And I think that kind of changes like the type of clients you get and how the communication is as a result. Do you mind me asking you guys, like, what kind of pricing structure do you guys have?
I have two types of pricing structure. I have the hourly rates. It's 150 euros, especially because I work with incubators. So they have an hourly rate. And for a website, it's I don't know the word, forfait. It's like a package.
A package, yeah. Yeah.
It's
Okay, cool.
package.
And that package can range from 5,000 euros to like whatever.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And how about you, Alina?
So I'm a yoga teacher, and my day rate is about 600 euros per day.
Okay. And you just don't do hourly stuff. You're like, okay, this is what I do. This is, if you want me, I'm on a day rate.
Yes, and per hour it's 85 euros per hour.
Okay, amazing, guys. And so do you think that now you're happy with how you price and you're like, or do you ideally want to do like a project fee? Or do you mind whether it's hourly? You don't mind?
It's better to work with a hourly rate, actually, or with a daily rate, because when a customer is asking something more, an hour or anything extra, you can easily price it. Actually, that's why I really like working with incubators, because 1 hour is 1 hour. It's not 1.5 hours. It's not 2 hours. It's 1 hour and it's over. So you don't have the temptation to do something more.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Alina, what do you think?
I think that it's a good deal because your clients respect your limits, because 1 hour is 1 hour only.
Bingo. Okay, it's interesting you both think this. I've heard people say, don't charge hourly. Don't charge hourly. It's a terrible pricing model. And actually, I found the opposite. And I'm confused because everyone's do project-based pricing, do project-based pricing, do project-based pricing. The bigger the project, the more money it seems. But the amount of hair I've lost up here from those types of projects versus hourly is crazy. I'm going to be bald by the end of next year if I just do project-based pricing. And maybe that's because I'm doing project-based pricing wrong. Maybe that is because I am not charging enough for the project fee. I think if you charge enough, you can deal with a lot of bullshit because you're like, hey, it's like great money. But no, I think it's important to bear that in mind. Tell me about failure number 2, Camille. Afraid of working on complicated projects, even though these are ones that make you learn.
Yes, at the beginning, I wanted to keep working and keep doing what I knew. Simple and basic things, simple and basic websites. And that quickly limits the field of possibilities. And I was also afraid that I wouldn't be able to achieve the more complex projects as a beginner, because I did not know how to solve problematics or how to solve a different section without having to spend days working on them. And I didn't have the reflexes to ask the community and to pay for a mentoring session to go faster and further. That's how Théo saved my life, actually.
Okay, so you recommend like paying people to help you when you're in trouble?
Completely, because it saves a lot of time and hair, actually, as you said before.
Alina, what do you have to add to that?
I think that we are all afraid about getting out our comfort zone, but getting out of your comfort zone is the best gift you can give to yourself, because you learn a lot.
100%. Yeah. You can't really improve unless you're feeling uncomfortable, because literally the definition of like comfort zone means within your sphere of what you already know. Like, that's why it's comfortable, right? So you have to get out your comfort zone in order to grow and learn, in order for your comfort zone to actually grow and expand as well. And then the more difficult the challenges are, literally the bigger your comfort zone can get and the more comfortable you feel with uncomfortable situations. It's pretty obvious, but I think it's worth repeating. Okay, if you're in trouble, Camille, you're like, get help, pay for help from people that are better than you if you need it.
Yes, if you have the money, go and pay for it because it's going to be faster and it's going to save more time than ever.
Okay, I absolutely love that. And I guess paying comes with a certain, you have the privilege to be able to pay for that kind of support. But I think there gets to a point where you need that help in projects and you're trying to take on more difficult things and you might need that help in the end. And it's really healthy to take that on. Tell me about failure number 6, related to improving your skills. At the beginning, you didn't ask questions in the Webflow community because you were afraid the questions might be silly.
Yes, that's absurd. In retrospect, that's absurd. But I didn't want to be seen as a beginner by the community. And I was afraid to be judged, to be honest. And learning on my own, because I have learned Webflow on my own, creating a website and a bit with tutorials. And learning on my own left me with a lot of gaps, and I had to start learning again after a year of freelancing because I had bad practices. And those bad practices, I couldn't erase them. So looking back, I should have paid for a boot camp or a training course. And I have to admit, I did not know their existence, but I should have paid for it. And furthermore, I would like to add that not daring to ask questions is also a typically female syndrome. Women feel censored and are afraid of the reaction of men in a predominantly male community. And that's the main reason we wanted with Alina to create a female community on Webflow. But yes, they are one actually. Fluxus community is a big one with Claudia Capeo. Yes, I think maybe that's a combination of being a beginner, being a woman, and that's it. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. This is why like having female voices in the no-code space is so important. The amount of times men ask me to come on the podcast versus women is insane. And I think it's very representative of, as bad as it sounds, I think it's representative of what men think they're entitled to versus women. And I think it's even more important that you come on the podcast and also show that more women should be in this space and should be making the internet a more equal place. So I'm really glad that you've come on and shared that today. And I guess also this idea of asking questions in the community comes back to imposter syndrome more generally as well. Can you tell us like how you've got out the way of yourself to get better? Because I think a lot of the time we're just holding ourselves back. We're like, you can't do that. You just need to get out of your own way and just ask those questions.
Yes, actually, what was very helpful to me about that syndrome was the work I have been doing in the incubators. Actually, it works in two ways. In an incubator, collective workshops, and you have one-to-one, one-off solutions in a problematic. And at the beginning, I thought, who am I to provide a solution to someone who is maybe better than me? And I realized that they were not better than me, and I could help them with my knowledge. And it helped me a lot. I just realized like we are all experts of someone. And that's what helped me actually about the imposter syndrome. And related to Webflow, I think it's more related about the global community leader we got last year with Alina. I think it helps because we have to be here. We are a global leader in France, so we have to be present. We have to communicate with people. We have to organize events. And my kind of participation on the Init Club community, for example, or other communities, is to talk with people, to help them when they have questions, if I can answer, and ask questions myself. So it helps a lot. And we have more women in the community compared to last year when I have started freelancing. I think I have no idea if there was women who were asking questions on the community. I don't remember actually. Today, a lot more.
Yeah, definitely. I guess like this comes back to the point that it's like if a lot more women are asking questions, then a lot more women can see other women asking questions, and then there's like female no code community spaces that pop up and like Floxies, etc. It's just so important to do that. This episode has been filled with gems. Are you guys ready for the final question of this podcast, the most difficult question I'm going to ask you?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
We have no choice.
You have no choice. I have you here. Unless your internet just suddenly goes. What is your next failure going to be?
It's a hard question.
It's a hard question. Do you want to start, Alina? Go
Let me
ahead.
think about Let me think about that. Go ahead.
Okay. So to be honest, I have no idea. I think like everyone, we have no idea what will be the next failure. But I must confess, I'm not afraid to face it. I know there will be more than one during my life, and I think I've got used to the idea. I've been prepared. I wouldn't say I welcome it with open arms either, of course, but I think I'm prepared. It can be professional, it can be personal. I don't know. I'm not struggling with something in particular I didn't say before, but let's see what life will give us next month or next year. But I have no idea. I'm sorry.
That's all good.
And for me, I hope I will not have any failure. But to be honest, I think that we will face it because we have no choice. We have to deliver. We have to face it. We have to be here. Okay, so if the failure comes tomorrow, I think that we will face it. I have no choice.
Hey, you guys have such a positive approach to failure. It's epic. You're just like, yeah, I'm going to do it. It's totally fine. Like life is going to hit me in the face and we're going to go. So good for you guys. Do you have anything other than talk about the co-living at the end of this episode? Do you want to say anything about that before we wrap up?
About the co-living?
Yeah.
Yes, we are preparing the next session, next edition, and it's gonna be in February or in March. Don't know yet exactly where, but we think it's gonna be in the Alps, actually, the mountain, or in a city. So, like Berlin, like in Italy, Roma, maybe. So we are
Wow.
working on it. So it's gonna be in February or March. Should be.
So
And
epic.
it's gonna be a bit bigger than the first one because we were 8 participants, and I think we will be 10 to 15. What do you think, Alina?
Yes.
15
No,
people.
it's absolutely that. So if you want to make new friends, if you want to learn from others, if you want to share good moments, come with me, come with us.
Come with us. Amazing. Yeah, completely agree. Beautiful, guys. Well done for coming on Webflail in a foreign language. It's not easy talking as much as you did about failure, which is such a difficult topic to talk about. It's hard to share vulnerably, but you guys have. So thank you so much for coming on Webflail. And I'll put a link if anyone's interested in coming to Rome or anywhere else that these guys end up next March. And you guys can click the link and sign up to the waiting list if you are interested. Camille, Lena, thank you so much for coming on Webflail and sharing as vulnerably as you have.
Thank you.
Thank you
Jack.
so much.
Thank you for
Yes.
having us.
Thank you, guys. And that's a wrap. Thanks so much for Camille and Alina for coming on the podcast, and thanks so much to you lot for listening. So, what's the conclusion for this episode, Jack? Failure is not the end, it's a teacher. So I love how both Alina and Camille talk about essentially misstepping as an opportunity to grow, and ultimately redefining what your limits are every single time you do fail, you know? Like, you know, you mess up, then you learn from it, and then you're like, oh, I can push this further every single time. And I just love how both of them have just really embraced that. They're just like, oh, someone else is doing it, so I can do it. Oh, I messed up. Okay, I'm going to learn from that, go again after doing more research, talking to more people, and embracing the community. Now, this brings us on to a really important point, is that your perception of the world. Okay? Yeah, mic drop moment, I know. You have a perception of the world which is limiting you. And what I mean by that is that you might think, oh, like, if I get to work with this client, then my life will be set. Actually, maybe when you speak to a load of other people, that is way within your grasp. I mean, maybe it's very reasonable to can actually work with that person. And then, you know, what more boundaries can you push? And the more you speak to people, the more you realize, you know, the world's more flexible than it seems. My own previous limitations actually might not be limitations at all. And Camille and Ellina have really embraced this idea of speaking to other people by literally setting up their own co-working space together, where they'll go and rent somewhere with a load of other no-coders and hackers and make stuff and build stuff and show each other what they're building and learn and grow together, which I think is such a cool idea. The fact is that life is malleable and we can actually make it into whatever we want it to be, and I think that's insanely exciting. So kudos to Camille and Alina for just making mistakes, learning from it, talking to people, gaining traction with whatever they're doing to such an extent that they can now have a lifestyle that they truly want. And they've kind of manufactured a life that they are excited to wake up for every day, which I just think is so cool. You know, that's kind of what this whole podcast is about in my head, is kind of breaking down perceptions of what we think of as failure, and actually it might not be, you know? So that brings us to the end of Webflail. This is it, guys. This is the end of Webflail. I think I might do another recording actually to conclude the whole podcast thing. But for now, ciao, sayonara, loads of love. Appreciate you all. Best of luck with your lives. And let's keep in touch. And finally, remember, keep on flailing. Ciao.